Miss Parker, I'm going to ask you one more time, he said, his voice tight with barely concealed anger. Where is the rest of the payment for your room? I told you, I whispered, my voice cracking. My ex-boyfriend, he took everything. My credit cards, my cash. I just need until tomorrow morning. I have a wire transfer coming through from my parents, I swear. That's what you said yesterday. His eyes narrowed. And the day before that. We've been more than patient, but this is a 5-star establishment, not a charity shelter. The tissue came away from my lips stained bright red. The bleeding had started when Brad cornered me in my hotel room 20 minutes ago, demanding I give him the rest of my mother's jewelry. When I'd refused, his backhand had sent me stumbling into the bathroom doorframe. He'd taken the jewelry anyway, along with my phone and the last $300 I'd hidden in my suitcase. Now I stood in this gleaming lobby at 11 o'clock at night, penniless and bleeding, while curious guests in designer clothes pretended not to stare at the spectacle I'd become. Please, I said, hating how desperate I sounded. Just give me until morning. I'll have the money, I promise. The manager's expression didn't soften. I'm afraid that's not possible. Security will escort you to your room to collect your belongings. You have 15 minutes. That's when I heard it. A voice from behind me, smooth as silk and cold as winter steel. Who the fuck left you bleeding? I turned and my breath caught in my throat. He stood near the elevator, perfectly still in a way that made everyone else in the lobby seem to be moving in fast forward. Tall, with jet black hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car, and his dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. But it wasn't his looks that made the hotel manager's face go pale. It was the way every other person in that lobby suddenly found somewhere else to be. The couple who'd been checking in grabbed their bags and hurried toward the bar. The concierge developed an intense interest in his computer screen. Even the security guard who'd been approaching me stopped dead in his tracks. The man in the black suit took 3 steps forward, and I realized he wasn't alone. 2 other men flanked him, both wearing dark suits, both radiating the same quiet menace. But he was clearly the one in charge. There was something about the way he moved, the way he held himself, that screamed power and danger in equal measure. His eyes never left my face. Specifically, my bleeding lip. I asked you a question. His accent was American, but there was something else underneath it. Something that suggested he'd grown up speaking another language first. Who did this to you? It's nothing, I stammered, suddenly more frightened of him than I'd been of Brad. Just an accident. His expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He looked at the hotel manager, who'd gone from angry to terrified in the space of a heartbeat. Mr. Takahashi, the manager said, his voice shaking slightly. I didn't realize you were still in Tokyo. If I'd known you were staying with us. I'm not staying here, the man, Takahashi, said, cutting him off without raising his voice. I'm visiting someone. But now I'm wondering why one of your guests is standing in your lobby bleeding from the mouth while you threaten to throw her out. Sir, there's been a misunderstanding about her payment. How much does she owe you? The manager swallowed hard. $4,200, sir, but... Takahashi pulled a wallet from his jacket, extracted what looked like a black credit card, and held it out. One of his companions stepped forward to take it and handed it to the manager, who accepted it like it might explode. Charge $50,000, Takahashi said. The rest is to ensure Miss... He looked at me, one eyebrow raised. Parker, I whispered. Emma Parker. To ensure Miss Parker receives whatever she needs for the remainder of her stay. And if anyone on your staff bothers her again, I'll hear about it. Won't I? It wasn't a question. The manager nodded so hard I thought his head might fall off. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Miss Parker, I apologize profusely for this misunderstanding. We'll upgrade you to one of our executive suites immediately and... That won't be necessary, Takahashi interrupted. He was still looking at me, and the intensity of his gaze made it hard to think straight. Miss Parker will be coming with me. Someone needs to look at that lip. Every self-preservation instinct I had screamed at me to refuse. I didn't know this man. He'd just appeared out of nowhere, thrown money around like it was nothing, and terrified a hotel manager into submission with barely a word. Everything about him radiated danger. But I also didn't have anywhere else to go. Brad had my phone, my money, and apparently knew where I was staying. The thought of going back to that room alone made my stomach clench with fear. Takahashi must have seen the conflict on my face because his expression softened slightly. "I'm not going to hurt you, Emma. But whoever did this to you clearly knows you're here. You're not safe in this hotel." "I don't even know you," I said, my voice barely audible. "My name is Kenji Takahashi. I own a security consulting firm here in Tokyo." He glanced at the manager, who nodded frantically in confirmation. "You're American, you're hurt, and you're alone in a foreign country. Let me help you." Something in his tone made me believe him. Or maybe I was just too tired and scared to keep fighting. Either way, I found myself nodding. "Okay," I whispered. He extended his arm toward me, not quite touching, just offering support if I needed it. I took a shaky step forward, and the lobby tilted sideways. Suddenly, his hand was on my elbow, steady and warm, keeping me upright. "When did you last eat?" he asked quietly. I tried to remember. "Yesterday morning, I think." His jaw tightened, and he said something in rapid Japanese to one of his companions, who immediately pulled out a phone and started making calls. "Can you walk?" Kenji asked me. "Yes, I'm fine. The world spun again, and this time, I wasn't fine. My knees buckled, and before I could hit the floor, Kenji had caught me, one arm around my waist and the other behind my knees, lifting me effortlessly. "I've got you," he said, his voice low and reassuring. "Just relax." I should have been embarrassed. I should have insisted I could walk. Instead, I let my head rest against his shoulder and closed my eyes, feeling safe for the first time in 3 days. The last thing I heard before exhaustion pulled me under was Kenji's voice, no longer soft, speaking to someone on the phone in Japanese. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. Someone was about to have a very bad night. And somehow, I knew it wasn't going to be me. I woke up in a bed so soft I thought I was still dreaming. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was or how I'd gotten there. Then it all came rushing back. The hotel, the blood, the man in the black suit. Kenji Takahashi. I sat up too quickly and my head spun. The room came into focus slowly. It was enormous, decorated in shades of cream and gold, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Tokyo skyline. Dawn was breaking, painting the city in shades of pink and orange. My suitcase sat in the corner, and I realized I was still wearing my clothes from last night, though someone had removed my shoes. A blanket had been draped over me. The door opened, and I tensed, but it was just a woman in a crisp white shirt and black pants, carrying a tray. "Good morning, Miss Parker," she said in perfect English. "Mr. Takahashi asked me to bring you breakfast. There are fresh clothes in the bathroom, and a doctor will be here shortly to examine your injuries." Where am I?" "Mr. Takahashi's residence, the penthouse." She set the tray on the table beside the bed. "Please eat. You'll feel better." She left before I could ask anything else. I stared at the tray, loaded with rice, grilled fish, miso soup, and fresh fruit. My stomach growled loudly, reminding me how long it had been since I'd eaten. I was halfway through the meal when there was a knock on the door. "Come in," I called, expecting the woman from before. Instead, Kenji entered, and I nearly choked on my rice. He looked different in the daylight. Still intimidating, but somehow more human. He'd changed into a simple black shirt and dark pants, and his hair was slightly damp, like he'd recently showered. Without the suit jacket, I could see how broad his shoulders were, how he moved with a predator's grace. "How are you?" "Feeling?" he asked, staying near the door like he didn't want to crowd me. "Better. Thank you. For everything. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't—" I trailed off, not wanting to finish that sentence. "You don't need to thank me." He moved closer, his eyes scanning my face with clinical precision. "Your lip looks better. The swelling's gone down." I touched my mouth gingerly. He was right. It still hurt, but not nearly as much as last night. Mr. Takahashi. Kenji, he interrupted gently. Please. Kenji, I said, testing the name on my tongue. I need to know something. What you said last night, about owning a security consulting firm, what does that actually mean? He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Then he pulled out a chair and sat down, close enough to talk, but far enough to give me space. It means I solve problems for people, he said carefully. Security problems, protection, information gathering, things that require discretion. Are you Yakuza? The question hung in the air between us. I knew I should probably be afraid to ask it, but I needed to know what I'd gotten myself into. Kenji's lips quirked into something that wasn't quite a smile. My family has connections to certain traditional organizations, yes, but my business is legitimate. I work within the law. He paused. Most of the time. The honesty was somehow more frightening than a lie would have been. Why did you help me? I asked. You don't know me. You could have just walked past. His expression darkened. I don't walk past women who've been hurt. Ever. It's not who I am. He leaned forward slightly. Emma, I need you to tell me who did this to you. The truth this time. Because it wasn't an accident. I looked down at my hands, shame burning in my chest. My ex-boyfriend. Brad. We broke up 6 months ago, but he found out I was in Tokyo for my friend's wedding. He showed up at my hotel 3 days ago and said he wanted to talk. To apologize. I laughed bitterly. I was stupid enough to believe him. What happened? He needed money. For gambling debts, I think. He took everything I had. Cash, cards, my mother's jewelry. When I tried to stop him last night, he hit me. My voice cracked. Then he took my phone and told me if I called the police or tried to leave Tokyo before paying him back, he'd tell everyone I stole from him. He said no one would believe me. Kenji's expression hadn't changed, but the air around him felt different. Colder, more dangerous. Where is he now? His voice was perfectly calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. I don't know. He said he'd be in touch. I looked up at Kenji. Please, I don't want any trouble. I just want to go home. My flight is in 5 days, and my parents are wiring me money this morning. I'll pay you back for the hotel, I promise. I don't want your money, Emma. He stood up, and suddenly he seemed to fill the entire room. I want you to understand something. You're under my protection now. That means Brad doesn't touch you. He doesn't call you. He doesn't breathe in your direction. Do you understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. He moved toward the door, then paused. The doctor will be here in an hour. After that, one of my people will take you shopping to replace what was stolen. You'll stay here until your flight. Don't argue, he added when I opened my mouth. You're not going back to that hotel. Kenji, I can't impose on you like this. You're not imposing. You're accepting help. His eyes met mine, and something passed between us that made my breath catch. Let me do this, Emma. Please. The word please from a man like him felt like a gift. I nodded again. He left, closing the door softly behind him. I sat there for a long time, my untouched food growing cold, wondering what I'd just agreed to. The next 3 days passed in a strange, dreamlike blur. The doctor came and examined me, declaring my injuries minor but prescribing a painkiller for the bruising on my ribs that I hadn't even mentioned. Somehow, Kenji had known. A woman named Yuki took me shopping, refusing to let me buy anything cheap or practical. Mr. Takahashi's orders, she said with a small smile when I protested. By the end of the day, I had 3 suitcases full of clothes I couldn't possibly afford to reimburse him for. I saw Kenji in the evenings. He'd appear at dinner time, always asking how my day went, always watching me with that intense focus that made me feel like I was the only person in his world. We talked about everything and nothing, my job as a freelance writer, his love of old movies, the wedding I'd missed because of Brad. Your friend must be worried, he said on the second night, over bowls of ramen that his chef had prepared. I sent her a message from Yuki's phone. Told her I had food poisoning and didn't want to ruin her big day with hospital drama. I stirred my noodles absently. She's on her honeymoon now. I'll explain everything when I get home. Will you? Kenji asked quietly. Explain everything? I looked up at him, sitting across the table in his penthouse dining room. What do you mean? Will you tell her about me? The question felt loaded with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Should I? He was quiet for a moment, his chopsticks suspended halfway to his mouth. I don't know what this is, Emma, but I know I've thought about you every hour of the past 3 days. I know I've had 10 men searching Tokyo for your ex-boyfriend, and when they find him, I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again. And I know that when your plane leaves in 2 days, I'm going to want to stop it. My heart hammered in my chest. Kenji, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. But I did want to say something. I wanted to tell him that I'd felt safer in his home than I had in my own apartment back in Seattle. That, when he looked at me, I felt seen in a way I'd never experienced before. That the thought of leaving Tokyo, of leaving him, made my chest ache. Instead, I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. He turned his palm up, threading his fingers through mine, and we sat there in silence while the city lights twinkled beyond the windows. On my last night in Tokyo, everything changed. I was packing my new suitcases, trying not to think about tomorrow's flight, when Yuki knocked on my door. Miss Parker? Mr. Takahashi requests your presence in his study. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. I followed her through the penthouse, to a room I hadn't entered before. The study was all dark wood and leather, with one wall devoted entirely to books, and another to what looked like security monitors. Kenji stood with his back to me, staring out the window. 2 of his men flanked the door. Kenji? I said softly. What's wrong? He turned, and the look on his face made my blood run cold. Not angry, exactly, but something darker, more final. We found Brad, he said. My knees went weak. Where? About 3 hours ago. He was at a hostess club in Roppongi, drinking away the money he stole from you. Kenji moved closer, and I could see the tension in his shoulders, the tight control he was maintaining over whatever he was feeling. He was bragging about his stupid American girlfriend, about how easy you were to manipulate. Shame and anger warred in my chest. What did you do? What do you think I did, Emma? His voice was soft, almost gentle, which made it more frightening. I took him somewhere quiet. Somewhere we could talk. Kenji, you said you worked within the law. I said most of the time. He reached out, cupping my face with one hand. His touch was surprisingly gentle. I asked him one question. Just one. I asked him if he'd planned to come back to hurt you again. What did he say? Kenji's jaw tightened. He laughed. Said you were good for at least another 10,000 if he played his cards right. Said you were too weak to fight back. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. So, what happened to him? He got on a plane to Los Angeles 2 hours ago. He'll land with a broken hand, some bruised ribs, and a very clear understanding that if he ever contacts you again, if he ever even thinks about you again, I'll know. And next time he won't walk away. Kenji's thumb brushed my cheek. He won't bother you anymore, Emma. I promise you that. How many? I whispered. You said you had 10 men looking for him. Understanding flickered in his eyes. You want to know if I killed them? The men Brad owed money to. The ones who'd been pressuring him? I nodded, not sure I actually wanted the answer. They're alive, Kenji said. But they won't be collecting any more debts in Tokyo. I made that very clear to them. He paused. I don't kill people, Emma. Not unless there's no other choice. But I do make sure they understand the consequences of their actions. I should have been horrified. I should have run from this room, from this man who'd just casually admitted to torturing my ex-boyfriend and threatening loan sharks. Instead, I felt something inside me uncoil, something that had been tense and afraid for months. Thank you, I whispered. Kenji's eyes widened slightly. You're thanking me? You protected me. You made me feel safe when I had no reason to feel safe. I reached up, covering his hand with mine. No one's ever done that for me before. For a long moment, we just stood there, his hand cradling my face, my hand over his. The air between us felt electric, charged with possibility. Your flight is tomorrow at 3, he said finally, his voice rough. I'll have a car take you to the airport. And if I don't want to go? The words were out before I could stop them. Kenji went very still. What are you saying, Emma? I'm saying I don't know what this is between us. I'm saying it's crazy and impulsive and probably a terrible idea. I took a shaky breath. But I'm also saying that when I think about getting on that plane tomorrow, about going back to my empty apartment and my freelance work and my life where nothing exciting ever happens, I want to cry. Kenji's other hand came up to frame my face, his thumb stroking my cheekbones. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're dangerous and protective, and you make me feel alive in a way I've never felt before. I know that I trust you, even though that's probably insane. I laughed, and it came out shaky. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me to get on that plane tomorrow. I can't, he said roughly, because I want you to stay. I've wanted you to stay since the moment I saw you bleeding in that hotel lobby. I've been trying to give you space, trying not to push, but Emma. He leaned his forehead against mine. Stay. Give me a chance to show you what this could be. I don't even live in Tokyo. I don't speak Japanese. Stay, he repeated, and this time it was almost a plea. We'll figure out the rest. Just stay. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of his breath on my lips, the solid strength of him surrounding me. This was madness. I'd known this man for 4 days. I should be running as far and fast as I could. Instead, I whispered, Okay. Kenji pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes searching mine. You mean it? I mean it. I'll stay. For a while, at least. I didn't get to finish. Kenji's mouth found mine, and suddenly nothing else mattered. The kiss was gentle at first, mindful of my healing lip, but it quickly deepened into something hungry, and desperate and perfect. His arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me against him, and I tangled my fingers in his hair, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kenji rested his forehead against mine again. I don't deserve you, he murmured. Good thing I'm not asking what you deserve. I smiled, feeling giddy and terrified, and more alive than I'd ever been. I'm just asking what you want. You, he said simply. I want you, for as long as you'll have me. That might be a while. Good. He kissed me again, softer this time. Because I'm not letting you go without a fight. 6 months later, I stood in the same penthouse, looking out at the Tokyo skyline as dawn broke over the city. So much had changed since that first morning. I'd found an apartment nearby. Kenji had insisted I have my own space, even though I spent most nights here. I'd started writing for expat magazines about life in Tokyo, and surprisingly, my career had taken off. I'd learned some Japanese, made friends, built a life, but mostly I'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with Kenji Takahashi. I heard him come in behind me, felt his arms wrap around my waist as he pulled me back against his chest. Up early, he murmured into my hair. Couldn't sleep, I was thinking. About what? I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd saved me in more ways than one. About the night we met. About how terrified I was. About how I never could have imagined ending up here. Kenji's expression softened. Regrets? Not a single one. I reached up to cup his face. You changed my life, Kenji Takahashi. You changed mine first, he said. The moment I saw you in that lobby, bleeding but still standing, still fighting, I knew. I didn't understand it then, but I knew you were going to matter to me. He pulled something from his pocket, and my breath caught. It was a small box, black velvet. Kenji, let me say this, he interrupted gently. I know we haven't been together long. I know your family probably thinks you've lost your mind, moving to Tokyo for a man you just met. I know this isn't conventional or sensible, or any of the things a proposal is supposed to be." He opened the box, revealing a ring that made my eyes sting with tears. A simple diamond, brilliant and clear, set in platinum. But nothing about us has been conventional, and I can't imagine my life without you in it. He dropped to one knee, and I couldn't stop the tears anymore. "Emma Parker, will you marry me? Will you let me protect you and challenge you and love you for the rest of our lives? Will you build something beautiful with me, something neither of us could have built alone?" I was nodding before he finished, tears streaming down my face. Yes, of course, yes." Kenji slipped the ring onto my finger, then stood and pulled me into his arms, kissing me deeply while the sun rose over Tokyo. When we finally broke apart, both of us were smiling. "I have a confession," I said, admiring the way the ring caught the light. "What's that?" "I canceled my return flight the day after you found Brad. I'd already decided to stay before you asked me." Kenji laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "And I bought the ring 2 days after we met. I've been carrying it around for months, waiting for the right moment." "This is insane," I said, but I was laughing too. "We're insane." "Probably." He kissed my forehead, then my nose, then my lips. But I've never been happier. Neither had I. This man, who'd appeared in a hotel lobby when I'd needed him most, who'd protected me and fought for me and loved me with an intensity that still took my breath away, was going to be my husband. Life had a funny way of working out. Later that morning, as we sat having breakfast and making plans, I thought about Brad, and how his cruelty had inadvertently led me to exactly where I was supposed to be. I thought about how sometimes the worst moments of our lives can crack us open just enough to let the light in. And I thought about how I'd walked into a Tokyo hotel lobby, bleeding and broken, and walked out with everything I'd never known I needed. Kenji reached across the table and took my hand, his thumb stroking over the engagement ring. "What are you thinking about?" "Fate," I said, "and how I'd go through it all again if it meant ending up here with you." His eyes softened. "You won't have to go through anything like that again. I'll make sure of it." "I know." And I did. This man, with his dangerous edges and protective heart, would move heaven and earth to keep me safe. "I love you, Kenji Takahashi." "I love you too, Emma. More than I thought possible." He raised my hand to his lips. "Welcome home." And for the first time in my life, I truly felt like I was. The wedding was small, held in a traditional Japanese garden with cherry blossoms falling like snow around us. My family had flown over, still bewildered but supportive, won over by Kenji's quiet charm and obvious devotion. His family, including several stern-faced men who I suspected were much more than security consultants, welcomed me with an acceptance that surprised me. As we stood before the officiant, Kenji in a sharp black suit, and me in a dress that probably cost more than my car, I remembered that night in the hotel lobby. The fear, the desperation, the certainty that my life was falling apart. I'd been right about one thing. My life had fallen apart that night. It had fallen apart so it could be rebuilt into something infinitely better. Kenji squeezed my hand, and I looked up at him. This beautiful, dangerous, impossible man who'd crashed into my life and refused to let me fall. "Ready?" he whispered. I smiled. "I've been ready since the moment you asked who hurt me." His eyes darkened with emotion. "And I've been yours since the moment you didn't run away." We spoke our vows in English and Japanese, making promises that felt less like words and more like unbreakable bonds. When the officiant pronounced us married, Kenji pulled me into his arms and kissed me like I was the air he needed to breathe. The applause faded into background. Noise. All I could hear was my heartbeat, wild and free and certain. Later, at the reception, my best friend, the one whose wedding had brought me to Tokyo in the first place, pulled me aside. "Emma," she said, squeezing my hands, "I need to tell you something. That night you got food poisoning, I knew you were lying. I could hear it in your message. I was terrified something horrible had happened to you." Guilt washed over me. "I'm so sorry. I just didn't want to ruin your honeymoon. But then I saw you with Kenji at the pre-wedding dinner, and the way he looked at you," she smiled, her eyes shining. "Whatever happened that night, it brought you to him. And I've never seen you this happy." I glanced across the room where Kenji stood with his brothers, his eyes finding mine like a compass finding north. He smiled, and my heart flipped. "Something horrible did happen that night," I admitted. "But something wonderful happened too. And I think maybe I had to go through the horrible to find the wonderful." My friend hugged me tight. "I'm just glad you found each other." "So am I." As the party continued around us, I made my way back to my husband. He wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me close, and pressed a kiss to my temple. "Happy, Mrs. Takahashi?" I leaned into him, feeling safe and loved, and exactly where I belonged. "Ridiculously happy." "Good." His voice dropped lower, intimate and promising. "Because I plan to make you this happy every single day for the rest of our lives." I believed him. This man who'd found me broken and bleeding, who'd protected me and cherished me and fought for me in ways both literal and figurative, would keep that promise. I knew it in my bones. As the sun set over Tokyo, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Kenji led me onto the dance floor. We swayed together, lost in our own world, while cherry blossoms continued to fall around us like blessings. "Thank you," I whispered against his chest. "For what?" "For being in that hotel lobby, for seeing me when I felt invisible, for asking the right question at the right time." Kenji pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes intense and full of love. "Who the fuck left you bleeding?" he quoted with a small smile. "I'm glad I asked. Otherwise, I might have missed the greatest thing that ever happened to me." "What's that?" "You, Emma. Always you." I kissed him then, in front of all our friends and family, with cherry blossoms in my hair and a ring on my finger, and a future stretching out before us, bright and full of possibility. I'd come to Tokyo for a wedding, and ended up finding my forever. And if you'd told me that night in the hotel lobby, with blood on my lips and fear in my heart, that 6 months later I'd be dancing at my own wedding to a man who'd moved heaven and earth to keep me safe, I never would have believed you. But life has a way of surprising us, of taking our darkest moments and spinning them into gold. All it took was one man, one question, and one night when everything changed. Who the fuck left you bleeding? The question that saved my life. The question that led me home. Our happiness lasted exactly 3 months before the past came knocking. I was at home, our home now, a beautiful traditional house in Setagaya that Kenji had bought as a wedding present, working on an article about Japanese tea ceremonies. Kenji had left early for a meeting, kissing me goodbye with a promise to be home by dinner. It was a Tuesday, ordinary and unremarkable, the kind of day that makes you believe everything will always be this perfect. The knock on the door came at 2 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. Kenji's security team usually called ahead if someone was coming by, and my friends knew to text first. But I'd been in Tokyo long enough to lose some of my American paranoia, so I opened the door without checking the peephole. The woman standing on my doorstep was beautiful in a harsh, calculating way. Expensive suit, designer handbag, perfectly applied makeup that couldn't quite hide the hardness in her eyes. She looked me up and down with barely concealed contempt. "You must be Emma," she said in flawless English, "Kenji's little American wife." Something in her tone made my skin crawl. "Can I help you?" "I'm Akari Sato." She said it like I should recognize the name. When I didn't react, her smile turned sharp. "You don't know who I am. How precious. Kenji really has kept you sheltered, hasn't he?" "I'm sorry, but if you don't have a reason for being here..." "I'm his fiancé," she interrupted. "Or I was, until you showed up and ruined everything." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? Oh, he didn't tell you?" Akari's laugh was cruel. "We were engaged for 2 years. Our families had an arrangement, a merger, you could say. But then Kenji met some pathetic American girl bleeding in a hotel lobby and apparently lost his mind." She stepped closer, and I instinctively backed up. "Did he tell you why he was at that hotel that night, Emma?" Did he tell you he was there meeting me to finalize our wedding plans? My mouth went dry. You're lying. Am I? Ask him. Ask him about the wedding venue we'd already booked, about the invitations that were being printed, about the promise he made to my father. Her eyes glittered with malice. He threw it all away for you. And do you know what that cost him? I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Get out. The Sato family controls half the ports in Tokyo. We've been allied with the Takahashi family for 3 generations. When Kenji broke our engagement, he didn't just break my heart, he broke a treaty. He made enemies of some very powerful people. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. People who would do anything to see him suffer the way I've suffered. I said, get out. My voice shook, but I forced myself to stand firm. Akari smiled, satisfied, with the damage she'd done. I'll go. But Emma? You should ask yourself why Kenji really saved you that night. Was it because he cared? Or was it because he needed an excuse to escape a marriage he was too cowardly to break off on his own? She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. That meeting he's at right now? It's with my father. They're discussing the consequences of Kenji's choices. I do hope he makes it home in one piece. She walked away, leaving me standing in the doorway, my entire world crumbling beneath my feet. I tried calling Kenji immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. My hands shook as I texted him, then called again, desperation clawing at my throat. Nothing. I paced the house for 20 minutes, my mind racing. Was any of it true? Had Kenji been engaged when we met? Was our entire relationship built on a lie? Worse, was he in danger right now? I grabbed my phone and called the one person I knew would tell me the truth. Yuki answered on the second ring. Emma-san, is everything all right? A woman named Akari Sato just came to my house. She said, my voice broke, Yuki, please. I need to know if what she said is true. Was Kenji engaged to her? The silence on the other end told me everything. It's complicated, Yuki finally said. That's not a no. Emma-san, you need to speak with Kenji-san about this. I can't. Yuki, please. Is he in danger? She said he's meeting with her father. She said there would be consequences. Another pause, longer this time. When Yuki spoke again, her voice was tight with worry. Stay at the house. Lock all the doors. I'm sending someone to you right now. What? Why? Yuki, what's happening? Just stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone except Takeshi. He'll be there in 10 minutes. She hung up. Terror flooded through me. I locked the doors with shaking hands, closed all the curtains, tried calling Kenji again. Still nothing. Takeshi arrived exactly 10 minutes later. I recognized him as one of Kenji's most trusted men. He had 2 others with him, all of them armed. Mrs. Takahashi, Takeshi said, his normally friendly face set in grim lines. I need you to come with us. Now. Where's Kenji? Is he okay? We're taking you somewhere safe. Please, we don't have much time. I'm not going anywhere until someone tells me what the hell is going on. Takeshi's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. The Sato family has put a price on Kenji-san's head. And on yours. We need to move. Now. The world tilted sideways. What? Akari Sato's visit was a distraction. While she was here, her family was preparing an ambush for Kenji-san. He's safe, but they know he'll do anything to protect you. You're leverage, Mrs. Takahashi. We need to get you somewhere they can't reach you. My training as a journalist kicked in, overriding my panic. How much is the bounty? 10 million yen, about $75,000 American. Takeshi grabbed my arm gently but firmly. Please, we need to go. I let him lead me out to a waiting car. Not the usual luxury sedan, but something nondescript and fast. The other 2 men flanked us, their eyes scanning the street. We were almost to the car when I heard it. The screech of tires. Everything happened so fast. A black van careened around the corner, heading straight for us. Takeshi shoved me behind him, pulling a gun from inside his jacket. The other two men did the same. "Get her in the car!" Takeshi shouted. One of the men grabbed me, practically throwing me into the back seat. I heard gunshots, sharp, deafening cracks that made my ears ring. The man who'd pushed me into the car climbed in after me, shielding my body with his as the driver floored it. We tore through the streets of Tokyo, weaving through traffic at terrifying speeds. I couldn't see what was happening behind us, but I heard more gunshots, felt the car swerve violently. "Are they following us?" I gasped. "Not anymore." The man protecting me, I thought his name was Hiro, finally sat up. Takeshi took care of it. "Is he?" "He's fine. He's handling the cleanup." Hiro met my eyes. "Mrs. Takahashi, I need you to stay calm. We're taking you to a safe house. Kenji-san will meet us there." But I wasn't calm. I was furious. Furious at Akari for her cruelty. Furious at whoever had put a bounty on my head. Furious at Kenji for keeping secrets that had led to this moment. And underneath the fury was fear. Raw, primal fear that something would happen to Kenji, that I'd lose him before I ever got answers. The safe house turned out to be a nondescript apartment in Shibuya, tucked above a convenience store. Hiro and the driver, whose name I learned was June, swept the apartment before letting me inside. It was small, sparse, but clean. A place to hide, not to live. "How long do we have to stay here?" I asked. "Until Kenji-san arrives." Hiro positioned himself by the window, watching the street below. "He's dealing with the Sato family now." "Dealing with them how?" Hiro didn't answer. I sat on the worn couch, my mind spinning. Was this what my life would be now? Running from enemies I didn't know I had? Hiding in safe houses while my husband fought battles I didn't understand? The door burst open an hour later, and Kenji strode in like an avenging angel. His suit jacket was gone, his shirt was torn, and there was blood on his knuckles. But he was alive. He was here. Our eyes met across the room, and something in his expression broke. "Emma," he breathed, crossing to me in 3 strides. His hands cupped my face, his thumbs stroking my cheeks as his eyes searched mine frantically. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "I'm fine. Takeshi got me out." I grabbed his wrists, feeling the rapid pulse beneath my fingers. "But you're not fine. Kenji, you're bleeding." "It's not my blood." His voice was rough, dangerous. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to be dragged into this. I thought I'd handled it. I thought—" He pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I thought I'd protected you." I pushed back slightly, needing to see his face. "Akari came to the house. She told me things. About your engagement. About her family." Kenji's jaw tightened. "What did she tell you?" "That you were engaged to her when we met. That you broke it off because of me. That I ruined everything." My voice cracked. "Is it true?" He was quiet for a long moment and my heart sank. "It's true," he finally said. "And it's not. That's not an answer, Kenji." He pulled away, running a hand through his hair. Blood from his knuckles streaked through the black strands. "Yes, I was engaged to Akari. It was arranged by our families when I was 23. I never loved her. I barely knew her. It was business, Emma. Just business. But you never told me." "Because it didn't matter. The engagement was already falling apart when I met you. I'd been looking for a way out for months. Akari knew it. Her father knew it. The only thing keeping it together was my father's insistence that I honor the arrangement." His eyes found mine, desperate and pleading. "Then I saw you in that hotel lobby, and everything became clear. I didn't save you because I needed an escape, Emma. I saved you because I couldn't not save you. And somewhere between that night and the next morning, I realized I couldn't marry Akari. I couldn't marry anyone but you. You should have told me. I know, and I'm sorry. I thought if I handled it quietly, If I paid the penalties and smoothed things over with her family, it would just go away. He laughed bitterly. I was naive. The Sato family doesn't forgive slights easily. And Akari, he shook his head. She took it personally. Kenji, they put a bounty on our heads. They did, and I've spent the last 3 hours making sure they understand what happens when they threaten what's mine. His voice went cold, and I saw the dangerous man beneath the loving husband. The bounty is gone. The Sato family won't come near you again. How can you be sure? Because I made it very clear that if anything happens to you, I will burn their entire operation to the ground. Every port they control, every business they own, everything. He moved closer, his hands gentle despite the violence in his words. I will destroy anyone who tries to hurt you, Emma. Anyone. I should have been frightened by the intensity in his voice. Instead, I felt that same surge of safety I'd felt the night we met. What about Akari? I asked quietly. She's leaving Japan. Tonight. With enough money to start over somewhere far away from here. Kenji's expression softened slightly. I don't hate her, Emma. I understand why she's angry, but I won't let her hurt you because she's hurt. That's not how this works. I reached up, touching his face. Did you kill anyone today? No. He leaned into my touch, but I came close. Because of me. Because of us. He turned his head, pressing a kiss to my palm. I chose you, Emma. I chose this life with you, and I would make the same choice 1,000 times over, no matter the cost. Tears stung my eyes. Even now? Even after all this? Especially now. He pulled me close again, his forehead resting against mine. I love you. More than honor, more than family obligation, more than my own life. You're everything to me. Please tell me you believe that. I thought about everything that had happened. The secrets, the danger, the violence that lurked at the edges of our perfect life. I thought about the man holding me, this complicated, dangerous, devoted man who'd fought his way through Tokyo to get to me. I believe you, I whispered. I love you too. Even though you're an idiot for not telling me about Akari. He laughed, the sound shaky with relief. I'm an idiot in many ways. You'll discover more as we go. Probably. I pulled back to look at him. But Kenji? No more secrets. If we're doing this, if we're really building a life together, I need to know everything. The good, the bad, and the dangerous. I promise. He kissed me softly. No more secrets. Hiro cleared his throat from across the room. Kenji-san, we should move to a more secure location. This safe house is compromised now. Kenji nodded. We're going to the compound. Full security until this settles completely. The compound? I asked. My family's estate outside the city. It's where we go when things get... He gestured vaguely. Complicated. How long will we have to stay there? A few days, maybe a week. He squeezed my hand. I know this isn't the life you signed up for. I thought about that. About the quiet, predictable existence I'd had back in Seattle. About the person I'd been before that night in the hotel lobby. Actually, I said slowly, I think maybe it is. Maybe I just didn't know it yet. Kenji's eyes searched mine. You mean that? I'm not going to lie and say I enjoyed being shot at today, but Kenji? I'd rather have this, danger and secrets and all, than go back to being safe and alone, and half alive. I laced my fingers through his bloody ones. You make me feel whole. Whatever comes with that, I can handle it. He kissed me again, deeper this time, pouring everything he couldn't say into the kiss. When we broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. Let's go home, he murmured. Our real home, where I can keep you safe. As we left the safe house, surrounded by armed guards and watchful eyes, I realized something. This was my life now. Not the neat, orderly existence I'd planned, but something messier and scarier and infinitely more real, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.